Hey everyone, Leland Best here out at Megabit Affiliate. Just wanted to cut a quick video for all of those who are considering doing an upgrade to Windows 10. I thought this would be a good way to interject what might be the best approach to take before you go and download all those files into your computer. Obviously Windows 10 is working in the background, and my best advice to anyone out there who is looking at the upgrade is don't try to do the forced upgrade, because what I've discovered is that Windows 10 is partitioning out upgrades to the computers it knows it's completely compatible with. So if you've been postponed on your little upgrade tab down there in the bottom corner, that's probably because Windows is aware that you have either software or hardware conflicts on your computer that are keeping them from giving you the full upgrade at this time. So just wait it out. It'll probably be your best bet. I have done a couple of forced upgrades. Didn't have any problems because actually the computers were ready for the upgrade already. I just wanted to have a little more control over them. But one of the things I'm going to take everybody through real quick for those folks who are maybe on Windows 7 and aren't too sure whether they want to make this upgrade because they've got so much stuff on their computer and they're not sure how it's going to affect them. And honestly, this is probably the best thing you can do before you have Windows 10 do its upgrade, and that is to get some junk cleaned off your old machine. I can only recommend that you go through, remove all the old files that you know you don't need anymore. And I know that's a pain in the butt, but sometimes we have to go through our documents folders, our pictures folders, our video folders, our temp folders, anything that we have out there that's junk, garbage, any zip files, any exe files that are programs in our downloads directory. These are things that we should really get rid of off the system that have been brought in over time. And I'll give you a quick rundown here. For instance, on my local disk, if you look on your browser, it looks anything like what my libraries here might look like. You might have your favorites, but let's just go to the local disk to make it easy so that everybody understands where they're at here. You have your program files, you have your user files. If you go to your user folder, you're going to find the name of the person you log in as on your user for your computer. This is a good place to find most of the folders that you need to discover your problems with, and that's going to be your pictures folder, your videos folder, your music folder, and your downloads folder. This is where you're going to find a lot of files that you've downloaded over time. Obviously your machine is probably going to be full of stuff in here. If you recognize the names of folders that you haven't used in a long time but you know are installed on your machine and you have the executables, you can delete those off your system. You don't need those anymore. But I'm going to show you, once you get rid of all those files and you think you're on the up and up, one thing you might want to try and do is just get out there and look for a file called CCleaner. And I use this all the time. This is one of my favorite go-tos, made by Paraform. It's a program that allows you to do a registry clean, similar to what Norton Systematics and System Utilities used to do back in the day, if you're familiar with any of those older systems. It's going to pop up right off the top, at the top of your system. When you do any type of search for it in Google, it's going to usually be a clean install. You should come to a page that looks like this. It's going to be labeled with the Paraform trademark. All you really need, folks, for most cases, I don't recommend for anyone to get into the ones that have real-time monitoring, automatic updating, etc., etc. You just run into issues with bandwidth, you run into issues with preloading software that you really don't need. These are both free trials that are going to ask you to borrow some time, use them a little bit, and then they're going to ask you to upgrade for a cost. I always use the CCleaner free. I just simply download this off on my system, and I just happen to actually uninstall it off my system so I could do this again. I don't worry myself over update releases. You can see here it's going to download about a 6.4 meg file. So I'm going to simply, I don't even have to go to the folder that it's located in. I'm just going to click on it to get it started so that this installation takes off and fires up. Okay, so now we have the CCleaner installer loading up, and I'm going to say yes to the prompt. For some reason I didn't want to load in my Chrome browser. I'm not sure what was causing that issue, but I did have to cut away there for a minute so that I could get the install program to start. So the setup's loading, unpacking its data. Go ahead and close out on this window. I should have an install window show up in just a second here. There we go. So welcome to CCleaner. Click next to continue. Make sure you're in the English version if you are English. You can add a desktop shortcut up here on top if you want to have one of those, one in within your start menu. Now CCleaner will add a run CCleaner to your recycle bin, so that when you right click you'll have an option here to run CCleaner. You can also add that as a context menu and have it check for updates automatically, which is fine. I prefer to actually just have it do so when I open the software, but that's your choice. You can do it either way. And enable the intelligent cookie scan, which is basically those things that are sitting around on the system that you're not using anymore, cookies from sites that you visited, etc., that aren't really being used by your system. So there are some advanced options. You can install it for everyone on the computer or just for yourself. I prefer to just install most of this software as everyone, even though I don't have other users on my system. So we can go for the next. Locate it somewhere on your system. Best place for CCleaner is probably in your program files directory. The program files x36 or x86 is going to be the folder used for the older 386 platform folders or the 32-bit files. The program files directory is straight up 64-bit processing. So anything else we need here is just confirming our selections, and I'm going to go ahead and install. This takes about 2 seconds. It's a very small program. There's not much to this installation at all. The software does its job properly and covers all the bases. So you can see it extracting all the DLL files or dialog files that Windows is going to use to run the software. The CCleaner icon has popped up on the desktop, and it is finished. So we could review the release notes. I'm pretty familiar with that, but if you want to leave that checkbox there so you can read over some of the current release information on that. Otherwise, when you hit finish, you're going to go ahead and start CCleaner. And here we have our cleaner, our registry tool, and our outside tools, and some options. Normally, in this case, the options are set up pretty well the way we need them. There's not much we're going to have to do here. By default, CCleaner is going to cover you for everything else. Again, they want to know if you want to do an upgrade. Here you can confirm that you have the proper 64-bit install, and they have the website link, and there's several settings in here that you can adjust. Not much here. I don't have it run when the computer starts. I prefer to run it manually when I need it or when I feel I need it. I do have the option set on the recycle bin. If I want to just right click over the recycle bin, you'll see here now I can run CCleaner. It automatically checks for updates, which is fine, and it's basically normal file detection. I could have it go a lot slower and do a secure file deletion, or I'm sorry, normal file deletion. I could have it do secure file deletion, but honestly, these types of issues are not as demanding as most people think they are. It's not the kind of thing you have to worry about. I'm going to wipe free space from drives C, and I could do that from drive D. I haven't used D much at all. I have a dual partition here on a 1 terabyte drive, which means I have about 800 gig on one drive and 800 gig on another drive, and that allows me to decide where my files go. Since I haven't used D a lot, there's not a lot of free space that needs to be wiped, and what that is all that extra space at the end of your drive. As you add and delete files, the hard drive simply writes over older data. In order to remove the data completely, it has to be wiped. Now that's usually a series of ones and zeros, as like we have on Megabit Affiliate. All those numbers get written over the data that was supposedly erased. Really all it is unqueued from the drive, so that you're not able to find the files on the drive any longer, but the files still exist. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people say don't ever just throw your computer away with a hard drive on it, because there could be a lot of sensitive data on there that people can find later. This wipe is an ability to go through and wipe all that data off a drive completely. So here we are over at the cleaner function. I'm not going to go through these options here. Like I said, a lot of this stuff as far as cookies go, you could get into ones you want to keep, like accounts for Google, Facebook, your mail account, your Twitter account, and that's fine. These are the types of files you would want to keep. And there's probably no more cookies on here that anyone really needs to keep. Now in my case, I'm going to keep the TechSmith, which happens to be the program I'm using to record this right now. YouTube is something that I use a lot, so I don't have a problem saving cookies from YouTube. Anything else on here, really, maybe LinkedIn I could save, Google Apps I could save. Not a whole lot more here that isn't going to correct itself as time goes on. There are some cookies on here, maybe from eBay and such, but those are refreshing cookies that aren't necessarily that detrimental. If you're saving a lot of data out of those accounts, fine, but I'm not too worried about it myself. I could add custom files to delete and folders to empty. Like if I had a temp folder that I wanted to always empty out each time I did this, I could add that. I could exclude certain files. Say I have a bunch of pictures down at the end of the drive that I really don't want to be touched in case there are some issues. I can block them out with a simple filter, and I can have it monitoring the system, but normally that's in the Pro version. And then there's some advanced options like hiding warning messages, shutting down the system after cleaning. Like if you wanted to leave for the day, have the system do its cleanup and then shut down while you're gone for the weekend or whatever. So back to the cleaner. And I'm going to go ahead and analyze the drive here, which is basically just drive C right now. And again, what we're trying to do here is just prepare our systems for a Windows 10 upgrade. And the reason I say that is we're going to dump all those temporary files, all of the cached data, all of the garbage that's in the registry that Windows 10 is just going to have to work with during its installation. The less stress you put on any operating system install, in this case we just simply want to clean out all the garbage on the machine so that when it's time to do the upgrade and Windows has installed all of its files onto the system, we're ready to go. We've got a nice clean burning system that's not going to give any real problems with moving files around. Because when Windows installs, Windows 10 that is, it actually takes all of your old system data, your old operating system, whether it's Windows 7 or Windows 8, and creates a Windows.old directory on your system. And by doing so, you're storing all of your old data for your programming in one folder, and you're creating a new Windows directory for your Windows 10 operating system. The less you have to crunch and store in that Windows.old directory, the better. So I like to go through in each of my systems before I ever perform an upgrade to a new operating system, a complete crunch of everything that's out there. Now I just recently dumped my cache file, and I'll show you how to do that after I do the CCleaner setup. That's something that I prefer to do once a month, once every other month. And what that is simply removing the temporary cache that Windows uses and creates as a virtual drive. And we'll explain that as I get over there. So here it's asking me to close Google Chrome because obviously it's still open. We were over here downloading the Piniform program. So I'm going to close that. It asks, do you want to close Google Chrome? I can say yes, and it's going to say, well, I'm closing it, even though I just closed it myself. It's probably going to freak out because I did. I should have probably just let it do it. And now it's trying to find Google Chrome, and it can't find it. So these are some of the issues that you can run into. I could have just let it do it on its own. It's taking a long time to close. Would you like to force it closed? Sure, why not? And it's going to go ahead and realize, oh, it's already closed anyway. So it's going to continue on its process. It's going through the Google Chrome Internet Cache. And you can just simply watch its progress. It's going through my users, app data, and the Google Chrome setups. All the temporary files are being located. All the cookies are being located. And you can kind of follow along here as to what was to be done. It's going to go through the temporary internet files, the history, the cookies, the recently typed URLs, the indexed app files, the download section, the recent documents, the run files, thumbnail caches. It's going to empty the recycle bin, the temporary files, the clipboard. It's going to do a memory dump. These are just a lot of things that can really slow your machine down over time. And if you're ever running into issues where everything seems to be lagging, you're doing video and it just can't seem to write the video right, everything's out of sync. I ran into that issue with MovieZoo earlier today where I was saving files and rendering video, and it just was not happening. So here you can see CCleaner alert. It's going to save me almost a gig of disk space. Okay. Now this is the monitoring section of CCleaner. Even though it's going through and analyzing it while we're here, it's actually found more than a gig of data here that's going to be removed. So I can kind of ignore this alert for now. This came up a little, in a sense it came up while we were in the process of cleaning it, even though it was going to identify that there was a problem. I'm going to run the cleaner. It's going to permanent delete files off your system. Now, are you sure you want to proceed? Well, of course, I'm sure. The other thing that it does offer in a lot of cases, well, when we get into the registry, I'll show you this. It's going to offer to back up a registry file so that you can maintain an existing copy of the original before you do any changes to it, because we're going to actually strip through the registry also. Whenever you remove software, move data around on your drive, especially if you uninstall programs that you haven't used in a long time, which is another thing I recommend. Go through your control panel, which is very simple to locate. Simply go to your start button, hit your control panel, and before you even run CCleaner, what I recommend you do is you go to uninstall a program and run through this list and find any of the programs that you have in your system that you simply don't need or use anymore. You're probably going to find a ton of files out here. I've got game programs, I've got virtual drives, I've got lots of things that I probably shouldn't have on this machine that I just have had on here for years, but I'm reluctant to pull them off, so I don't find myself usually removing them because this is my main machine. This is my baby. This is the one that I'm always on, and it kind of stores most of my data. But that's one of those things you need to do really beforehand. As you run CCleaner, you'll discover all the junk that it gets rid of. Well, why not uninstall all those software programs you don't use anymore before you run this? That way, all of those bogus registry entries, all of the back-end temporary files. You can see here it's removed over 1.2 gig of data from my machine just in the last minute and a half. Now, what I'm also going to do here is I can run the cleaner again just to see what it's going to do, although I prefer to analyze and run, analyze and run, analyze and run. And I'll show you what I mean by that. It's going to still cache through all these files real quickly. And I do this just as what you might call a little bit of extra. Now it says here 0 bytes removed, but I'm going to analyze this one more time. Because sometimes as you remove files, it discovers other files that should have been removed with it. So here's another 3.1K that we can go ahead and run and remove those files. So I'm going to remove those with it. And I'll go through the whole process again, though now it's much quicker. And now it's gone through some Firefox cookies, some other internet histories, etc., etc. And what we want to do is run this, analyze and run this a couple of times until we realize that there's really nothing left to remove. That way we know we're clean, everything's gone. So here again, it looks like it's the same file coming up. So it's a thumbnail cache. It's basically, if there were a window open, it wants to keep creating thumbnails for your open Explorer windows. Something like that we can probably leave there and not have to worry about it. Even though this time around we're going to go ahead and delete it. Then I'm going to head over to the Registry Cleaner. As soon as this cache clean is done, it shouldn't take more than another 30 seconds. Okay, yep, it's the same file. So this is a virtual memory file that keeps popping up into the system. It's simply trying to create a thumbnail cache. So we're going to leave that go. I'm going to run over to the Registry Cleaner. Now this is where, this could take a little bit of time off the bat, but these go through several aspects of the registry, and it finds unused file extensions, it finds ActiveX class issues, it finds libraries that aren't used anymore, fonts that aren't even applied, help files that are from bogus installs or installs that have been removed, files that are running at startup that you don't really need to run anymore, some MUI caches, some sound events, and some Windows services that might not even be operating any longer. So this goes through and it's going to find a ton of things that it doesn't need. You know, in tar-GGs, stuff like this, these are simply unused extensions. If you use zip files primarily, even though the system for, say, JZip or 7-zip come up, or even WinZip, come up with file allocations for these types of files, if you don't use them, the system recognizes that it hasn't been applied in quite some time. It's going to remove these application extension utilizations in the system. So here we've got installer references, obviously things that are being removed from the current version, and it's going to get to the end. So it's got 100% clean. We've got all these issues. We're going to fix our selected issues. Do you want to back up changes to the registry? Well, obviously that's a good idea. Nothing wrong with doing a backup before we proceed. So it's going to save a file that has the year, the month, the date, and the time with a .reg or registration file, or I should say a registry file saved. So it's a CC reg file. We're going to save that in our documents folder. It's just a backup in case something goes wrong. We found 122 issues. Now, just to be honest, if your computer hasn't gone through a registry clean in quite a while, you may have over 2,000 issues on your system. don't be alarmed. This is normal. There are a lot of programs either installed or uninstalled off your system. There could be a lot of bogus entries in there that have been lagging you down for so long that you're going to find this is where your biggest change and improvement in speed is going to take place, which is simply cleaning out this registry file. So I'm going to go, you could go through these one at a time and fix each issue, and read what the unused extension does. Honestly, folks, with CClean, I have not had any issues whatsoever with allowing it to fix all of the selected issues. So I'm going to have it zip through 122 problems that I have on this drive. You can see it work up the bar here. It has just wiped out or dealt with any of those issues. Most of them are simply deletions or removing entries from the registry itself. Now we can close that, but again, same thing here. Scan it again, because as you remove registry keys, you will discover that there are other keys that suddenly become identified as not being used or have issue with. So we want to make sure we do an analyzation of the registry again, fix it. We can back it up again if you want. It's always a good idea to back it up anytime you're affecting the registry, because the registry is the core. It's basically the heart of everything Windows. It's where everything is assigned, a location, a path, a directory, a structure, a program, an executable. Everything is run within the registry. So you have to make sure that you don't corrupt that. If you do corrupt your registry in any way, it can get to be pretty ugly. But this program has never done me wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and fix those two issues and scan it one more time. I think we should end up with 0 issues found in this case. We'll give it about 10 more seconds. Alright, no issues found, so we're all clear. Just to show you the tools on this part of the system, this is really just an enhanced version of your control panel uninstaller. Or if you wanted to, once you located some issues, let's go back in and find, well, you know what, I don't use any meeting plugin anymore. I used to. This is dated from 4/28/2013. I don't need that software anymore. So I'm going to uninstall it. Yes, I'm sure I want to uninstall it. Now let me show you what happens just by uninstalling one software program. I'm going to do an analyze here while we're here. See if it pulled any other files out while we were in the process of removing any meeting. Okay, what we're seeing here is just the analysis of the initial recent documents. That's not a big deal. The registry, we can scan that for issues real quick. See whether or not that comes up with a problem for unassociated files, which it might now that we have any meeting gone. Nope, no issues, so we're all good. The tool, any meeting, is gone from the system now. I could go through here and remove several others, and you may find things as you pull them out are going to have file extensions that were used for the file names that are used by that program that are no longer going to be needed in the registry. So those are just some of the things you can do. So that's CCleaner. While I've got you for this next 4 minutes, I'm just going to show you one other thing you can do. Now, I don't need to reboot this system, but I have just cleaned up a whole ton of data. You saw me remove over 1 gig of data from my machine. What other thing I can do is if I go to the Properties button on my computer, and I'll do this real quick so that we can finish this video out. If you go to your Advanced System Settings here in Windows 7, it's going to pull up a small menu. And if you go to the Advanced tab, sometimes it ends up at the Computer Name tab. We're going to go to the Advanced tab, go to the Performance Settings, and again, another Advanced tab. So we've got 2 Advanced tabs to get through. You'll see here under Virtual Memory, it establishes a certain page file size for your hard drive. Now I'm going to change that because I have no paging file. I actually ran that entire system in without virtual memory, which is normally required by a lot of software that Windows uses nowadays. I have it set up to automatically manage my paging file size for all my drives. It recommends 9 gig to be running as a page file, but as you can see, because I'm automatically managing it, it realizes I have enough RAM memory on the machine that it has actually established no paging file right now. Now if I were to go through here and uncheck this, I could set a custom size, I could set a system managed size and have it automatically manage it, and that way when I hit OK, it's going to create a file of certain megabytes. My idea for you guys was to go in here and uncheck this, set it to no paging, do a set, so that it tells you it's going to give you a warning. If you disable the paging file or set the initial size to less than 400 megabytes and a system error occurs, Windows might not record details. Well, that's fine. I'm not too worried about that. Now what I could do is hit OK, and OK, it's going to say it's going to require a restart. You will want to restart your computer. This will wipe out a file that's on your system normally in the C drive, known as, you're not going to see it here unless you actually show it. If I were to organize the files and actually do a quick view of that particular hidden file, it's hiding files right now. If I were to unhide the files, then what would normally be shown here is I would be able to see a file in my hard drive on C, which is going to be identified as a pagefile.sys file. And that file is something that's available only if that page file is being written. Now, right now, I don't have a file being written. So the whole idea is to delete that file, which can get up to be a couple of gig in size. And we're going to wipe that from existence, and then when we reboot, we're going to come back here to the Double Advanced tab. We're going to go into Change. We're going to have it set to System Manage Size and Automatically Manage. Hit OK, hit OK, and it's going to create a new page file. And I'll show you just, well, it's going to want me to restart. I'm going to restart later. Otherwise, I have to redo my video. So from there, we've got our setup, and I hope that's giving you some help. It's Leland Best over at Megabit Affiliate. We'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.